Welcome everyone. Like I was saying before, I know that, it might be an odd time for you all who are joining. I'm not sure where you're joining from. If anyone feels like they would like to enable their camera, as I was saying before, it is always really lovely to be able to speak to a face versus just people's names. And we will have some time for Q&A towards the end. So with that, I'm going to jump in and just give you maybe a brief overview of what is financial engineering for those of you who are just now joining. Financial engineering integrates concepts from math, statistics, and computer science with finance theory. And other names that you can think of for financial engineering may include mathematical finance, computational finance, financial mathematics. We are a top-ranked quantitative finance program housed in a top-ranked business school at the #1 public university in the US. And I'm very pleased to say that we have received that title for, I think, at least 5 years in a row now. So we're very proud to be part of UCLA. And going a little bit further, our goal in the financial engineering master's degree program is to provide our students with rigorous training that teaches how to apply your quantitative skills in the financial markets. And we are a full-time STEM designated 15-month curriculum. It starts in the fall quarter, it goes to the winter quarter, the spring quarter, then you go off for your summer internship, and then you come back for one final fall quarter. And we are currently recruiting for the class of 2024, which does begin this coming September, and then you would end in the following December of 2024. So with that, I would love to introduce our esteemed panelist, Razin Hussain, and he is a UCLA MFE alum from the class of 2021. So he just recently received his MFE degree and went into the finance industry. And, what I would like to say is welcome, first of all, to everyone, and welcome, Hussain.
Thank you.
And if you could just briefly introduce yourself, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background pre-MFE, whether you had previous work experience or did you come straight out of undergrad, and what was that undergrad degree that you studied?
Of course. So my background, it's not, so my initial, I did an undergrad in Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in finance and econ. So it's not like a traditional, my background was not math and computer science initially. So then I did a second undergrad in math. And then I started the MFE program. But also when I was doing the second undergrad in math, I was working full-time for an investment firm, investment management firm as an investment analyst for 4 years before coming into the program.
Right.
So I did an undergrad in commerce. Then I had some math courses and all. And then I did my MFE at UCLA.
Okay. So I'm curious to know what led you to pursue an MFE versus an MBA or another grad degree. I was wondering, did you already have an idea that you wanted to go into quantitative finance? Is that why you kind of switched from a B commerce to math?
Yes. That's exactly why I kind of did an MFE. Because as I said, it was commerce. So I started as an equity analyst. So my first job right out of my first undergrad was not was not quantitative, was more like fundamental finance, equity research kind of position where I was covering a bunch of stocks for North America, US, Canada, because I was working in Canada back then. So the first 2 years of my 4 years experience before coming into the program was very bottom-up equity research, what we call, looking into deep into companies, looking into the financials of companies and try to like stock picking basically. So, and then like while I was doing that, I got very interested in the quantitative side of finance, kind of what we call like factor models and kind of building optimized portfolios, but like more like lower frequency, like monthly, quarterly rebalance portfolios and stuff like that. So that's kind of that kind of motivated me to kind of turn path and move from a traditional like bottom-up equity research type of position to more quantitative research. And then like the next 2 years while I was working, I tried to build that experience through my math degree and all before coming into the MFE program. So that it is because I got interested in a more quantitative side that I decided to pursue MFE.
Wonderful. And had you ever considered doing an MBA before you discovered the MFE program?
To be honest, not really. if MFE did not exist, probably I wouldn't do an MBA. Because the only reason I wanted to do a master's because I wanted to change career path or wanted to get better at that specific field. But since I was already coming from a commerce background, I had little motivation to go do an MBA. But that was kind of the interest that kind of led me to MFE.
Yes. Okay, I see. And how do you feel your math background did help you do well in the MFE program while you were here?
It definitely helped, especially the courses that are more math heavy. Like the math really helped, like the stochastic class. Other classes, like some stat classes, econometrics, it did help a bit, but I don't think the math degree, you really need a math degree to get most of the classes. Like only that probably the stochastic calculus class that I had to use the math knowledge much more than pretty much any other classes. But other than that class, I cannot think of any other class that will probably need like a deeper math background. If you have some statistic classes from undergrad, definitely stats classes and helps a lot. But I would say coding classes, having good coding background will help much more than having a good math background. I would say, computer science would probably trump math in the program.
Okay, that's interesting because we do believe that linear algebra and numerical analysis and those types of courses and even partial differential equations that they help. It definitely helps your background coming in if you have already had some of that. Did you take some of those courses before you got here?
Yes, I did. So I had like Cal 1, Cal 2, Cal 3, partial differential equations or ordinary differential equations and all that. I did definitely help, like obviously like, but it's tough to say how much it helped. But of course, like this is a technical program. A lot of the things we do has a very solid math background. So if you know the basic math stuff, it definitely helps to understand the materials better and get deeper into stuff. But I don't think that's like a very strong prerequisite.
Okay. Wonderful.
Having a math degree. As long as you have like linear algebra, it's definitely like a must. I would say linear algebra, like a lot of the stat we do comes from linear algebra. If you have linear algebra, I would say that would help a lot for sure.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. We do have a lot of students that do come from a STEM degree, from, let's say, tech or engineering or math or physics or computer science. Why do you think in your mind that they should choose quantitative finance as a path versus, going into engineering or physics?
Yeah, it's super interesting. You're part of the market. You're seeing like I find like it's just like depends what your interest is. Like
Right.
that's I think one of the main things. But again, like it's very dynamic. There are a lot of things, a lot of areas actually. When we think like just quant, it's not one specific thing. It's like the area is so diverse and so big, has so many opportunities in so many different areas
Right.
that that's what it makes it interesting. It could be in like on the trading side, it could be on complex securities, pricing derivatives. Uh, you can be on the asset management side where you're doing a kind of a different type of research versus high frequency trading. So it's
Right.
just like there are a lot of different areas, a lot of different interesting areas, I would say, that
Mhm.
makes the field very interesting.
Right.
So yeah,
And
that's kind of, and also like, sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, no. Go
I
ahead.
was just saying that the STEM kind of, it's a very good prerequisite to have if you want to move into quant finance from
Mhm.
engineering or computer science background, because you
Right.
have a very solid technical background. You just need to
Mhm.
pick up the finance and the economics probably if you have the prerequisites missing. But
Right.
like if you have a STEM, that's you're pretty much set to have like
Mhm.
a solid start.
Right. So I'm wondering, you're emphasizing the fact that if you have a STEM degree before you come to the MFE, then you'll have a
Mhm,
solid technical background and,
for sure.
be able to do relatively well in the program. What about for those people that are coming in having a less of a STEM background, maybe a non-traditional background compared
Mhm.
to the majority of those that come into our program, like finance, econ, accounting, business administration? What should they be doing to supplement their their background so that they are also successful in this field?
First thing I would say is to pick up some coding programming classes. That's a must. If you do not have a strong programming background, it's your opportunities even getting out of the program would be comparatively limited. So like you definitely need to pick up on programming. That's
Right.
like at least two to three different languages. That at
Uh-huh.
least one language you should be like good at, and then at least
Proficient.
another
Right.
language you should be able to know how to code. Like having to like knowing two languages will definitely help a lot. So coding
Mhm.
is the first thing. Then I would and there are like a lot of I started, so as I said, I came from originally I came from a finance econ non-traditional background. So
Mhm.
I picked up a lot of online classes initially, so Coursera, Udemy, and all those sites, all those like learning platforms.
Right.
So once I have that, I did like number of projects. So that helped a lot. So once you have the basic understanding, you definitely want to go look into a paper, maybe start with an easy paper, replicate a paper, replicate the results, uh, have that on the side, and then also try to pick up some math classes online. So I picked up some lectures and whatnot from MIT OpenCourseWare, even before getting into the math degree. Uh, so yeah, if you're coming from a non-traditional background, finance econ, for example, the best approach would be to pick up some technical skills before coming into the program for sure.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's very helpful for some of the people on the call. Moving into more of what it was like studying here,
Mhm.
can you tell us a little bit about what it was like studying with people from all over the world? Because I know,
Yeah,
aren't you originally from Bangladesh?
I am from Bangladesh. Yeah. So
Yes,
I
yes.
actually moved, I lived pretty much like all my life in Bangladesh. So I moved to
Okay.
Canada in 2012. So I did high school in
Wow.
Bangladesh and then moved to Canada for
Right,
undergrad.
right.
Uh, Sorry, what was the question? I got
Well, I was just
distracted.
wondering, like,
Or
what does
the
it feel like being a student amidst all of the other students from other countries as well? Because we have a very diverse
Mhm.
class each
Yeah,
year.
yeah, I think it's great. Like of course you get to learn a lot, like the cultures and whatnot of
Right.
all the people that that are in the group, that are in the class, but you also get their perspectives on how the market is in that specific country. The discussions are like very, very robust, very like involved, I would say. So you learn a lot of different things in a lot of different areas. You try different food, different cuisines. We used to go out and have like it's amazing to have like a very diverse class of people.
Right. And Los Angeles actually has so many different places you can go for food.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know if you ever found any from Bangladesh.
Not specifically Bangladesh, but I found clothes. I found clothes. Yeah.
Right. So that's just another reason to come to UCLA is the fact that we are a melting pot for all sorts of different cuisines, and you can find pretty much anything you're looking for. So that's a great highlight of being here at UCLA. So I was wondering, what were some of the challenges you faced coming from, your finance industry job? Now, you said you were working while you were finishing up your undergrad. So did you not have a break between when you joined the MFE, like you graduated right away, or?
Yeah, there was no gap.
Okay, so, there was no gap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just finished, like resigned probably in September, and my classes start in October. So I was working till the last month.
Right. And did you find any challenges, because having been out of school for a little while, there may be some on this call that are in more of a professional role and have been out of school for a while. What sort of challenges did you find, if there were any?
Of course, it's still, if you're out of school for a while and you're in a regular class environment, it kind of becomes so, I don't know, a little difficult at the start. But it's not like end of the world. You like, it's, I don't know, probably the first couple months, you'll find it a little difficult to, like, you don't have a different routine. But even if you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be a different routine. You do the same thing, wake up, you do your classes, you study. Like, I was probably doing more work, like time-wise. I was spending more time while I was studying or like working, whatever it is, while I was at UCLA, then I was working. So it's like, you're pretty much, if you're working full time, I don't think your lifestyle changes that much. Because even at work, you're probably doing like reading and doing some stuff, which is like what I was doing before was probably not like significantly different. What I was doing, the projects I was doing in the MFE program, so which kind of made it a little easier to transition while I was in the program. But I would say it's manageable for sure. It's not like the end of the world.
Right. And I think what is important is that if you have been out of school for a while, just to follow Razin's advice and make sure that you are doing things to prepare yourself for the program, such as going on Coursera and taking different courses that you can, or maybe data camp. I know that there are several different courses out there that would definitely help you brush off that rust that may have come from just working a lot.
I will actually emphasize on that. That's because I think that made it easier for me to transition, because I was already doing a lot of classes online. So I was keeping up with like some online classes as well. So if you do that, then it becomes much easier to transition, because you're doing classes already online. So
Right.
you're doing classes now on campus at UCLA, probably much harder materials,
Right.
but but easier to transition if you're in that
Right.
habit as well.
Right. Okay. Wonderful. Well, speaking of transitions, I'm curious to know what you're doing now. Now, I
Mhm.
know that, the actual title of this coffee chat is, coffee chat with a New York-based alum. So everybody knows you're based in New York, but we would love to know what your company is, what your role is, and talk about what you do in your current role. And then I'll get to how the MFE helped you get to New York.
Yeah, sure. So currently I'm working for a high frequency trading desk at Societe Generale. It's like on their global investment banking arm, on the trading arm. So the desk I work with, we trade equities, equity ETFs, and equity futures. We call it like linear products. So my role, I work as a researcher. So I work to develop prediction algos that we can use to trade with. Uh, so like high frequency desk, we're like the desk, it's like we call it quantitative market making. So we are like making markets on equities and the products, as I said. And so my models, I'll try to build, specifically it's called signal research. So we will use some signals to predict high frequency forward returns, let's say forward return for the next 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, and so on, using like some form of signals like order book, price-based signals, order book-based signals, and whatnot. And then we'll use the predictions we're getting to trade, to make buy or sell decisions, and then manage the risk of the portfolio real time.
Wonderful. And do you work with a large team or a smaller team? Could you talk a little bit about the size of your team
Sure.
and what the other team members, their backgrounds look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So we have in our desk, we have like 4 traders, two researchers, and five developers. So that is like 10, 11 people about.
Right.
So it's not a big team.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so traders would be more responsible for managing the strats. So we would run probably 20, 25 different strats. Each of the traders would be managing their own strats. And then the researchers would be working on trying to improve the P&L, like profit and loss book of those strats. So take the strats that are running in production, and then try to make the prediction models better using like signals, using better like algos and whatnot. Backtest those, run in simulation, and if we see performance improve, then the researchers would like use that for like the traders would probably then use those models for trading. And developers are more involved in running or building the tools or managing the tools that we use to trade or backtest our strategies.
Right.
So that is kind of the composition of the team and what would be the role of.
Wonderful. And I'm curious to know what your day looks like. Like, when do you start your day? When does it end?
Yeah. So days are kind of long. So I start probably at between 8:30. I try to be at work, so I don't have work from home. So I have to be at work every day. And then probably I'll leave 7:30 p.m. So it's like a bit long days.
Yeah, that's a long day.
Yeah.
Wow. And can you kind of give us an idea of, like, walk us through one of your days? You arrive between 8 and 8:30, and then what happens? You check the markets?
Yeah, check the markets, read the news for probably like 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
Then I'll have some backtest, some models running overnight, training and running the backtest. So come see the performance of those models, how they did like in the training and testing phases, and the backtest PNL looks like, my models performing in backtest and stuff like that. So those would be like probably 1 hour to 2 hours trying to analyze, like look into what I did the day before that I was running in backtest overnight. Analyze the PNL a little bit. So that's like 1 to 2 hours gone there. And then I'll start working on the strat and the model that I'm working on, implement changes, tweak some parameters, train, and then train again. So that would be, and then like, it's like, that would be 2 phases, I would say. One would be like coding phase where I'm like implementing something on the code and then training it. The other would be like reading some papers to get some ideas that I want to test and implement. Either it could be a new idea or an idea for an existing strat. So it's like kind of reading some articles, reading some research papers, and then implementing the idea in code to test it. So that pretty much, sorry, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just going to ask you, and when you are using programming languages, which one are you mostly using?
Python. So most of my models are being trained on Python, but our legacy code, like the tools that we use to run the backtests, and even the tools that are used in production, those are written in C#. So the developers would be coding in C#, and I think it's pretty much common within the investment banks that the legacy code base still in like some form of C language. But then there is like, now researchers don't want to use, because your C code, it's often like bit static, and the flexibility in terms of what you want to implement can be a little bit restrictive. But Python, it's more easier to do something more fancy and kind of train. And then once you have some model trained, you can easily plug in the coefficients in a C# file. So most of my coding would be in Python, and then maybe the implementation part a little bit probably would be in C#. So yeah, Python mostly.
And can you talk just briefly about maybe some of the packages that you use in Python?
Yeah, so pandas, it's definitely the most common one. But the thing is, when you're working with high frequency data, you're working with like millions and millions of data points. So it becomes very runtime wise very costly to work with data frames, pandas. So I use a lot of NumPy arrays. So NumPy is probably the most used package for me. Then I would use quite a bit of SciPy as well for optimization stuff. So pandas, NumPy, SciPy would probably be the top tier. NumPy, pandas, SciPy. In that order, NumPy, pandas, SciPy. Then there are like a lot of different packages I would use to like CVX, convex optimization, some optimization libraries, CVXOp, CVXPy, a little bit of TensorFlows. Can't remember.
That's okay if you can't remember. I know I put you on the spot there. So I'm wondering, to land the role you are currently in, what was the process like when you were a student at UCLA Anderson MFE? How many applications approximately? I know you don't probably remember how many applications you sent out to land this one role. And then my second question to follow that up is, how many interviews did you have with Societe Generale? If you could speak about that as well, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. So application wise, honestly, like I sent out so many applications, I don't even like remember. Because first I sent a bunch of applications for internships, and then like bunch of applications for full-time, probably like, I don't know, 50, 100 for full-time. Yeah.
1,500 for full time.
No, not 1,500, 50 to 100 probably. 100
50
applications.
to 100. Okay, thank you
100,
for
yeah.
clarifying that, because
Yeah.
50 to 100. Okay.
Mm.
So I just want everyone on the call to make note of this. If you are offered admission to the UCLA Anderson MFE, you need to be prepared to apply and apply over and over and over again. And the good news is you only need one offer. So, you know, from all of those applications, as long as someone is getting back to you and, you know, you put your best foot forward, you can end up like Russ in New York. So you applied perhaps between 50 and 100 times. And
yeah, I think now when I'm thinking it, probably closer to 100 than 50.
Closer to 100. And out of those applications, can you give us a rough idea of how many you even heard back from, like a percentage? Or
for full time, I would say like 10-15%. I got interviews, so probably I was interviewing for 12 or 15 companies for full time. Yeah.
All right. And were you focused only on the East Coast, or did you have applications out everywhere?
I would say pretty much everywhere, but East Coast and West Coast were like the main areas I was applying
Your
to.
top areas.
Top areas for sure. But I did not restrict myself. Like, if it's a good position, I was not like, I'll not go. Like I was willing to move pretty much everywhere if it's a good position. Right.
That's great. And that's a great attitude to have, actually, so as not to limit yourself by just saying, you know, I'm only going to work on the West Coast, or I'm only going to work on the East Coast. That really limits what you can do. We've got people at Goldman Sachs in Texas. We've got people in Chicago at trading firms, and, you know, so there are other great possibilities out there. But the reason that I had Razin join us today is to help us understand how the career support team helped you get your job on the East Coast, if that's something that you can speak to us about.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was immensely helpful, because the emails we used to get, the Excel spreadsheet with all the listings, like that's a game changer. Because even for internships, I think you keep applying to those positions, because that helps a lot, because you're in that study phase, so you're not actively looking for job openings in LinkedIn or other sites that much. So when you have that list come in every week or every 2 weeks, or I can't remember the frequency, so you have all those positions, so you don't have to look for now like open positions online and decide, which is a good position and which is a bad position, or which one, like, you know, the listings that come in are all good positions. So you're like, okay, I'm just going to apply to like a lot of the listings that are coming in every week. So yeah, definitely career support, even like a lot of different things like resumes, sending out resume books. I know I got like interviews through resume books. I didn't even apply. They gave a call because they got my resume from a resume book that UCLA sent out. So I think like those things, I'm probably forgetting other things too, but those two like strikes me like top of my head, that helped me a lot in like looking for a position, both for internships and full time.
Wonderful. And you know, I was curious how you feel about you know, how the MFE creates career opportunities for not only students from the US, but for students originally from other countries.
In terms of like getting a good position out of the MFE, I think it helps a lot in terms of building that technical skill set, because when you're out of the MFE program, like a good program like UCLA, the employers already know that you have the skill sets that are needed to do that job. So like, I'll just give an example. Like before the UCLA MFE, I was interested in quant, as I said, and I was applying to probably similar positions. I never got any interviews. And like, it's kind of like, even if I'm the employer, I'm hiring people, then like having a MFE from UCLA versus not having one, it stands out significantly. So even when I talk with my coworkers and like when new applications come in, like MFE from a good program, there's a much higher chance that you will get an interview than if you don't have an MFE. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you build expertise, you build your technical skills through the program, you're expanding your knowledge, but also you're telling kind of the employers, the prospective employers, that you have the skill set to succeed in the job.
Right.
So I think both are very helpful.
Right. And the fact that the MFE is also STEM designated, which for those of you that are unfamiliar with that concept, the STEM designation means that our international student population goes through our MFE program, and what would normally be a 12-month allowance for working in the US, we add, I believe, 24 months for a total of 36 months, which is just 3 years, that you're allowed to extend your time of working in the US. And we have had a number of our international students actually sponsored by their companies to either go through the green card process or to be sponsored for an H-1B visa. And I don't have the exact numbers right now, but I know it does happen. It is the exception, not the rule. However, I do know that is one of the huge benefits of having an MFE from a top tier school. I am just so grateful that you were able to join us, Razin. Now, I know that we have some on the call that may have some questions. I wanted to open it up and see if anyone had any questions for Razin, our professional who's on this call. You should take advantage of it. And if you would like to, you can unmute yourself, put your hand up, use the icon, and I can call on you. Looks like Dramil Patel has unmuted himself. Are you hoping to ask a question? I don't want to put you on the spot. If we can't hear anything. So, if we don't have questions right now, you can always put it in the chat box, and Chloe will alert me and let me know that we have something in the chat. But for those of you who have not applied yet, I do see some of our applicants on this call. And I would just, point out, as Razin said, we've got a variety of different paths that you can take while you are, searching for your finance industry career. We do have some that go into data science. We have some that go into algorithmic trading, fixed income trading. We have some that go into quantitative research. And I'm thinking, risk management and quant trading and asset and portfolio management. So there are a number, and that's not an exhaustive list. So make sure you go on our website and take a look at the career paths that we have highlighted, and you can see where our alums have gone and what they're doing now. And it's very interesting to see where they landed after the UCLA Anderson MFE program. And we are very proud to say we have 100% employment rate 6 months post-graduation. That was for the class of 2021. We are currently looking very good for the class of 2022. I believe we have, I think, 72% placed at this point for the class that just graduated in December. And the average total compensation after graduation keeps increasing. As of the last time I had checked, it was at 129,000. And that includes all total compensation, as it says there on the slide. And if we move on, we've got admissions requirements. We require that you have a 4-year degree or equivalent. This does not mean that someone with a 3-year degree from Europe or a place that has the 3-year degree, you would still be eligible. We're looking for quantitative aptitude and strong analytical skills. Like we were emphasizing, a background in STEM is very good, but we also, do look at people with non-traditional backgrounds as well. We have had people join us with a background in political science, but they did a lot of additional work to make sure that their background was supporting their success in our program. And we're looking for computer programming skills in Python, R, C++. We're also looking for, as far as the application itself is concerned, you need to take either the GMAT or the GRE. And there is no minimum score, but to be competitive, you need to have at least a 90% in the quant and at least a 75% in the verbal. And, that does, based upon your background, sometimes your classes that you've taken are particularly difficult and you did well in them. So that might weigh a little bit more than the GRE or the GMAT score if you scored a little bit below that average. So I wouldn't be, afraid to apply if your score is a little bit below that. And for international students, we're looking for the TOEFL or the IELTS. And work experience is recommended. It is not required. An internship or a research project is also useful if you're coming in from the undergrad program that you were in. But we would ask that your internship is a real internship. And what that means is it went through the HR department of the company you're interning at and can be verified. And hopefully you were paid for that internship. CFA progress is recommended. It is not required. And and it also depends on where you're coming from and where you plan to go. And for that, Razin, I would ask you, because I think you came in with a CFA level 3, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you feel like that helped? Maybe you could talk a little bit about the CFA process and whether it helped or not, because you were coming in with a math background.
So CFA, I would say right now, it doesn't help much. Even in the program, it was not it did help. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
like it never helped.
Right.
In the program, you develop a much better understanding of the markets, the understanding of economic concepts and all that. So it definitely helps a lot. But the usefulness it's more if you're in the asset management space.
Right.
Even like when I was working for like another on the asset management side, even on the quantitative asset management side, you see a lot of people having the CFA. Even they're like full quants, they have CFAs. So people, when you're in a team that have CFAs, they would value the CFA more. And of course, you have more usefulness because you're using a lot of the CFA stuff in your job. But right now in my job, like CFA, no
You're
one
not
really
using
cares.
it.
I'm not using it at all, and probably no one cares much. So
Right.
it really depends on like what you want to do. If you
Exactly.
want to go into asset management or quantitative asset management,
Right.
having a CFA would help you immensely.
It
But
would be
like,
more useful.
yeah, but
Right.
otherwise, probably it's not going to be as
Right.
useful.
So that's why we say CFA progress is recommended, but not required. It does absolutely depend on where your career path is going to take you. So if you do know already, which a lot of people think they know what they'd like to go into, and then once you get into the MFE program, you discover, oh, wait, I really enjoy risk management. And maybe an FRM is a better path for you to take in that case. So it just depends. Oftentimes, if you're coming from an engineering background, it can help give you, the CFA can help give you a foundational knowledge of finance and the ethics behind it. They really emphasize the ethics in the CFA level 1, at least. I don't recall, Razin, I know it's been a while since you took it, but I know they go through corporate finance and different subjects, but
yes, you have accounting,
ethics,
economics.
right?
Yeah, ethics, it's a big part of of all 3 levels actually. You have a separate ethics book, I think, for all 3 levels.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Because that is very important in this industry to maintain a high standard of ethics. And then we also, only require 2 letters of recommendation. If you're coming straight out of your undergrad, they can both be from professors that maybe you've worked with on a project or research. You've done some research work for a professor, or you have taken an econometrics course, or you took a ordinary differential equations course and you did very well and you got to know the professor. That's definitely, someone we would recommend you ask for a letter of recommendation. If you are coming from industry and you haven't been in school for a while, we would say, ask those that have been your direct supervisor, if possible. I know sometimes you can't really tell them that you're looking at quitting your job and coming to a grad degree program, but if at all possible, it would be good to have a letter of recommendation from those that actually know your quantitative skills and abilities. And sometimes people, look to those in a higher position, but unfortunately, you're not very well known by that person. And so it does you a disservice not to ask someone who actually really knows your work and can talk to us about your analytical skills and your quantitative aptitude. And then we require 2 MFE essays. And the graduate division actually does require a personal statement and a statement of purpose. But because our 2 MFE essays have so much overlap, we say that you can upload the 2 MFE essays in the personal statement and statement of purpose section as well, if you don't feel like you have any more to say to answer those two essay questions. And then the interview is by invitation only, and it is a video platform that we send out. And Razin, I don't remember, did you have the video interview, or did you have an interview with me on Skype?
No, I had a video interview.
Okay, okay. Yes, so we do ask some, softball questions, some behavioral questions, and then we also ask some, quant questions. And so you need to be prepared with paper and pencil and be prepared to show us on the screen. But that's what I would say. And it looks like we may have, let's see, did we lose Razin? I think his Zoom dropped. He may.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
he dropped.
So I'm admitting him again. And so does anyone have any questions? If no one has any questions, we will let you start your Friday night, or get some sleep. I'm not sure where everyone is joining us from, but I would like to say a very, very large thank you to Razin for taking the time on your Friday night. We are, currently taking applications for our third and final round. So the deadline is April 30th, and we still, would love to read your application. If you have already applied, your application is currently under review, and we are releasing decisions on a rolling basis. Like I said, interviews are being sent out by invitation only, and they are also being sent out on a rolling basis. So, I welcome any questions before I let everyone go. Otherwise, if there are no questions, I will just, end it here so that everyone gets some time back. Razin, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Liana.
Yeah, no, this was fantastic, and I hope everyone got a lot out of it. We are recording this, and will most likely be posting it on our website. So if you missed part of this and you'd like to go back and listen, that's definitely a possibility. But thank you everyone for joining us. And
Liana,
yes.
There is a last minute question from Jamil.
Oh, okay.
He asked,
Wonderful.
How did your MFE degree prepare you for your current role? I think it
okay, wonderful.
to ask Razin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of, I use a lot of statistics in my job. So a lot of regression models, a regression type of models. So it's so the MFA program actually prep really well, because we do an econometrics class, which gives you a very solid understanding of like very linear type of regression models, and then you do time series and machine learning. So 3 classes that are very geared towards what I'm doing right now. So yeah, definitely it helped a lot. So I use a lot of what I did in the program in my job.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you for saying that. It just jogged my memory, actually. I was going to ask you what classes come back in your daily work.
Yeah.
Are there any others that you can think of besides econometrics?
I would say the computational finance class comes in handy too, because
Okay.
we learned a lot of different simulations, different types of Monte Carlos, and like even with a lot of different variations. So we're building up like a simulator for generating like random variables and whatnot, so that you can test something like out of sample. So it's like, yeah, that class also helps numerical analysis or computational finance, I think it's called.
Right. Computational methods in finance.
Computational methods in finance. Yeah, that class. And then the three I just mentioned. The three, actually, it's much more useful for me than any other. All the other classes are where it like builds your knowledge up. But those three specifically, I use them like directly in my job.
So the three would be econometrics.
Yeah, time series analysis and machine learning in finance.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, so my job, it's kind of more like statistical modeling. So that's why if you're going into more derivative pricing, I would say derivatives class. And the computational methods in finance class would be like very, very important if you're doing derivatives pricing, like for complex securities or even derivatives trading for an investment, like an investment firm or investment bank or hedge fund, whatever it is.
Great. Thank you so much. And Drumel, thank you for your question. And it doesn't look like anyone else has any questions in the chat box. So, like I said, thank you so much, Razin. And, we hope that everyone got a lot out of this coffee chat. And I actually have my coffee here with me.
I wish I got one. Before the chat.
Yes, next time we'll have to make sure you have one in hand.
Definitely.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
you again, Liana, for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, have a great weekend, everyone.